Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is Global Reality Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us tonight for yet another Moonbat edition of the broadcast. 6611, yes, the Dark Lord. What a perfect day.
What a perfect day to have Metal Monday. Then on 6611, yes. Oh, praise the Dark Lord. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's been a lot of sucking of my cock over the weekend. I'm sure Josh will tell you all about that tonight. Please continue, Mr. Reeves.
Oh, well, thank you, Satan. I appreciate that. Well, yeah, so it's Metal Moonbat Monday here, so we're going to be getting into tons of news and information for you here, as well as continuing from our reading from William Bramley, The Godspeed. We got into just a big, long entailed chapter last week, and I didn't really realize that we like had half a chapter, right? We kind of did the same thing. We had like half a chapter last week, and I finished that in a show picked up from the night before, and then it was already pretty, we'd already done a ton of news, talked about a lot of other stuff, and I was like, fuck it, I'll just go on and continue on into this next chapter, and I got in and started reading it and realized, I was like, I'll just go ahead and, suck it up and, try to gain some wind and air and soldier on and continue reading all this. And then I realized, oh man, I just kept reading. It wasn't ending. And man, there's still a lot more to go. I mean, there's, I don't know how many chapters are left in this, or pages are left in this chapter. But where we left off last time was the discussion on Hinckley and, of course, Sirhan, and touch a little bit on mind control and how these things were coinciding with the custodial society. So we'll pick up there tonight and continue on those topics for you here on the show tonight. And so glad you could be with us here tonight on the broadcast. The website where this broadcast originates from is www.theglobalreality.com. It's www.theglobalreality.com. That's where the stream is located at. That's where the listening links are all located at as well. And we also have all my documentary films and news up there. There's also news every day that gets updated pretty regularly through the week. Man Hydra, our webmaster, does a pretty good job of keeping the stories up there on the news section for you guys. So big thanks to him for doing that. He keeps them pretty regularly updated because oftentimes I don't have time to send him everything I'm looking at every day. So I just get up here and talk about it. And oftentimes I won't even drop it in the chat room. He'll just go find it and put it up there, which is fucking awesome. So thanks to him for that. Yeah, I don't normally look at the chat room, but I just had it open before the show, so it's sitting here. So Pisces in the chat room says, "Hey Josh, all the stars and moons are also Satan." Yeah, some schizophrenic or something sent me a paranoid email and said, "The moon and the stars are Satan." Ah!
Yes, they are.
It's just out of control. So anyway, hope you're doing well out there tonight. We've got some emails we're going to read tonight on the show here for you as well tonight, and usual news and information. We got a decent sized stack of news tonight. You know, there's certain topics here you're not going to have to worry about me covering or talking about or anything else, and so I won't even mention those. You know what they are, these distractionary things. There's not even fucking news. You know, I've been talking about that over the past few months. It's getting harder and harder and harder. Satan put the stars there to trick you. Yeah, maybe he did. Yeah. I like what Bill Hicks said about, the prankster god and the dinosaurs. Come on, Dad, let's fuck with them. Bury dinosaur bones down there. That's good stuff. But yeah, we've got some emails we're going to get into tonight. We'd love to have yours as well. globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. You can send those into my email address, and I will read those on the show and answer questions on the show and do my best to try and at least, maybe point you in the right direction if you're on to researching something, and because oftentimes when you're researching stuff, you find many things, some of which sound very true and some that sound very outlandish and crazy. And the more unbelievable thing is that 9 times out of 10, I found that the more crazy, out of this world, no way in hell type of answer or is what you normally find. You're like, oh, well, no way it could be that. It's probably this more mundane thing. Oh no, you find more and more as you dig into this stuff. It's more insane than any science fiction can really dictate or depict for you. Reality is really that way, and you find that. And if you haven't found that, then let me be the first to warn you that if you continue to research and you continue to have an open mind, you continue to try and find enlightenment in as many places as you can find it, then I got to tell you, you're going to experience that eventually. It's just part of it, But anyway, we should have a good show for you here tonight. Lots of news. We'll get into some different stuff. I don't know if I should do emails first or whatever tonight. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on. I've seen lots of crazy stuff flying around. Somebody sent me. Actually, they had dropped it in our chat room. That's another thing you can do with the website, theglobalreality.com. We also have the chat room there, interactive with other listeners, people who are listening live to the show. You can come and connect with real, actual people. Imagine that. Yeah, real, actual people. It's not a chat roulette room. Nobody's going to show you their cock when you come in or anything. Well, I don't know. Somebody may show you a picture of Lars Ulrich's cock or something, but it's tiny anyway, so you don't have much to worry about. But that's beside the point. Yeah, so you come on in there and you can connect with real, actual people, and people who are into researching all kinds of different stuff, but they're also into meeting other people and hanging out and talking. So come in there and visit in the chat room. If you haven't done that recently, we'd like to have you do that in there as well. Also, please support our work at theglobalreality.com. We have a chip and banner there for the month, and the donate button there. We barely scraped by the skin of our teeth last week and got the bills paid, so thank you to everybody out there who donated. So please support us again this week, because after we had to pay the bills, we're kind of short on support. So please support us if you can there, folks. Let's see what we have in the news stack. I tend to get, they tend to sort of stack up. I think Mondays generally are when we have the most emails, because I tend to get a lot over the weekend and stuff. Let me go through this stack and see what I've got here. There was a gentleman last week. It was the gentleman from Germany. Trying to see. Oh, okay. This is nothing I need to read on here. Okay, he just said he had sent me another email back. I want to make sure there wasn't anything I need to read on here. He was just sending me a link to a book saying I should read it. Okay, cool. This one is from Fish. What is your opinion about Mexican groups like La Raza, Mecha, etc., who refer to the southwest of the U.S. as Aztlan? I say this because one time I heard you say that maybe Rockwall, Texas might be Aztlan. I don't know how this plays into the picture. Thanks. P.S. I don't care if you say this on air or not. Sincerely, Carlos and Oxnard, a.k.a. Lil Chicago. All right. Well, Thanks, Fish, Oxnard, or Carlos, Little Chicago. Yeah. There is the whole thing within the Mexican gang groups, La Mancha, La Raza, and a part of the belief system, part of the structure of that belief system is that all of this area of the Southwest is Aslan. Now, what's highly interesting about that, and most people just, write it off and, make a racial slur and say, oh, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. They're just making shit up so they can take over, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe you need to do a little research and before you make that kind of statement, because there absolutely is something to it. Now, that Carlos, I appreciate your email because, I had heard that, years ago, what Carlos had mentioned here, La Raza, La Mecha, and I'm talking about the Southwest being Aslan, all that kind of stuff. I'd heard that. And we first started getting into this ancient rock wall megalithic structure thing in Rockwall, Texas. We first started getting into that research. And we met the gentleman, the architect, former NASA employee who'd worked on the on the big dig they had back in '99 on this thing when they'd done a big excavation on the wall. And we went to his house and met him. And for some reason, I didn't have as much of the evidence as I have now about the whole rock wall thing. And the sort of the first thing that came into my head after we left his house was that there was some sort of connection with the wall with Atlantis. And I start, the way my brain works, and you, those of you who listen to my show on a regular basis, probably you too, Carlos, you guys hear how my brain works, That's literally the way you hear me say stuff on air when I'm bringing stuff, piece of research. I'm talking. That's literally how you're getting audio direct from my brain because that's how it sounds in there. It's identical to that. But so sometimes I'll bring these fragmented pieces of things that I remember from way off somewhere else. And so when I had seen some of these archaeological discoveries that have been found at the rock wall, it just something popped in my head and said there's something about this is connected either to Atlantis or possibly to Solomon's Temple. There's some different things that I had seen, And, of course, Aslan also means Atlantis. Now, recently, I had seen this picture of an artifact that was found just north of, or maybe east, rather. I can't remember exactly what direction it is, but just outside of Rockwall, it's a little town called Royce City. Extends pretty close, not too far from where I grew up in that area, which is just real strange. I grew up not far. I didn't grow up in Rockwall, but I grew up in a town between Rockwall and another larger town, Greenville, Texas. I grew up right in between there. And everybody I knew growing up in these small towns, everybody's either parents or grandparents or both or all. Everybody had, strange encounters or experiences that involved extraterrestrials, UFOs. Everybody had a UFO story. It was just insane. And so when I started hearing about all of these different things that point in the direction of this artifact being a representation of Quetzalcoatl, that's what the guy who found it said, and there was arguments going on. Oh no, it's not Quetzalcoatl. It's not an artifact at all. Actually, it's a fossil. So John Lindsay, the guy who did the dig and put all that together, said, "I'm going to prove to you it's not a fossil," and he paid and had X-rays done on it. And when he had those X-rays done on it, they determined that it was indeed an artifact, and they believe that the Mayans would know. So they went to visit some of these ancient Mayan tribes that still exist in Mexico. And the Mayan tribes knew that John Lindsay was coming before he was going to be there, and they had one of their craftsmen make him a mold, and they made a mold of that artifact, and what they said this artifact represented was Quetzalcoatl. And I started thinking, well, Quetzalcoatl the legend says Quetzalcoatl built Aslan, and it says that Quetzalcoatl, who was very much the same as Jesus, very much as we've been reading in William Bramley, and as I've believed from my research, that whether we're talking about Jesus or whether we're talking about Quetzalcoatl or whether we're talking about Onas or Viracocha in Southern America or any of these other deities, we are still talking about different incarnations of that original Ea Enki spirit that was trying to warn mankind of the real secrets and tell us what the real truth about ourselves and what our power we are, because he knew that someone was going to attempt to enslave us by restricting that knowledge from us. That right there, to me, is the entire basis of everything that all research is based on. That is the foundation of control as I've identified it. That is the Genesis moment. From that period, that moment on, humans have been enslaved. And the only way to undo the enslavement is to undo the strength that the power of that original act had, that original restriction of knowledge, that original restriction of information, and not telling us all the whole picture about ourselves. That is the moment in which we all became enslaved. So when people ask about the solution and what's the solution to all this and everything else, the solution to any of this has to be undoing that original act of the restriction of knowledge. And that's what this is all about, isn't it? And I guess maybe that's just where my head's been lately, but that really, to me, if I had to define why you or me or any of the rest of us do this and are involved in this research, that's it. Because I and a lot of you out there and a lot of other researchers, and I'm sure probably William Bramley as well, and a lot of other people, a lot of us out here have realized that that is the source of our enslavement. That is the source of all of this, and everything else from the banksters to, all this other crap. It's just side dressing for the fact that the people that are in charge are still having power over us because of that original act. That's what the phony Patriot movement, and Alex Jones and all that stuff was set up and designed to do. So you just enough of the side dressing of the information to, be able to control what your response to the knowledge of that information would be, while still not telling you the whole truth and being gatekeepers and hiding that truth from the public while appearing to be the truth tellers and the patriots and, the heroes. All of these guys, all these phonies and that allege themselves to be truth tellers are all hiding the fact, and they're doing it with intent for the powers that be that they work for. And they wish to keep everybody, including people who think that they're quote-unquote awake, in ignorance to the fact that a long time ago with the establishment of the priests in Samaria, and that original person who held that knowledge in their hand and realized the power, realized that with one fell swoop, mankind could be enslaved. With one fell swoop, mankind could be liberated. But then who's in control? Right? You got to have order, right? There's got to be order to all this. Otherwise, we're just going to have chaos, right? Well, there you go. Ordo ab chao. That's their credo. That's their motto, right? So this all does tie into the question here from Carlos. I'm pulling together all these different bits of information, looking at different things. I remember this quote out of, and I can't remember it exactly. It was out of Manly P. Hall's Secret Destiny of America. And there was a chapter in there somewhere. We read, I think we read that on the show at some point back in the archive somewhere. I think 2009 or somewhere. I think it was on the Oracle days. But there's a part in there, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it was talking about some guy who essentially went down to the underworld with the with Africans or something like that, and he showed this man these two marble pillars, two side-by-side marble pillars that were supposed to be the foundation of, the worldwide secret society networks, and they were marble, and they were supposed to represent Jacqueline and Boaz, the two pillars of Jacqueline and Boaz, and they were supposed to have gone back to the time of Atlantis, or black marble. That was some of the guys who went down in some of these underground caverns at the rock wall. And by the way, those marble pillars, the fact is they said they claimed that they went back to the time of Atlantis. So again, that was what was interesting, and why I made this connection with the rock wall thing in Aslan and Atlantis was because the reports of the Rock Wall Success newspaper, I think in the late 1800s, early 1900s, had talked about these gentlemen that went down in this cave. And from what I understand, that cave is the big dome rock chamber room that the old courthouse of Rockwall sits on, where they have the recreation of the wall. And when you go see that recreation of the wall, those are stones they actually dug out of the Wade farm, and then they threw concrete on them and built this ramshackle representation of the rock wall using concrete and stones from the actual wall. And dude, you can see fucking quartz crystals sticking out everywhere out of those rocks because they use geopolymer crystals that were brought together from different sources and put together to make a polymer to build those walls. That's why we know scientifically that they are not natural. They are man-made. So those crystals don't exist naturally around this area. They had to be harvested from somewhere, and it's said that the Atlanteans harvested their crystals from the area that we know as Arkansas. It's rich with the quartz crystal. It said the Atlanteans went there to retrieve their quartz crystals for their technology. Now, when I heard about these gentlemen finding the black pillars underneath what was now the old courthouse in Rockwall, I went, wait a minute. They saw two black pillars. They said, and the word in the newspaper said it shone like the Orient. I mean, it was black and glistening. Well, that's the same thing that was described in Manly P. Hall's The Secret Destiny of America, by this gentleman going down to the underworld with these Africans and being shown the same thing and telling me it was the pillars of Jacqueline and Boaz, and this went back to the time of Atlantis. So that started setting off things for me going, wait a minute, this very well could have been the location of Atlantis. This very well could be what the rock wall thing all was, because, some guys think it's as old as 500,000 years old. The guy who did the samples on it wouldn't even have his findings published until after he's dead. And so then I heard that someone had asked the famous channeler Ashiana Dean. They had asked her what she believed, this or whatever this channel entity is, that she supposedly channels and gives you information from. And when this person had asked Ashiana Dean what the rock wall was, the channel entity told the person that the rock wall was a storehouse for ancient technology that went back to the time of Atlantis. Now, I read that, and I got to tell you, ding, 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 ding. I mean, flags started going off. I go, well, wait a second. L3 Communications, which is a division of British Aerospace, which is the second largest outsourcer to the CIA, Pentagon, and the Department of Defense, next to Halliburton and Brown and Root, just happened to build one of their new large facilities right on the corner of where one of the rocked rooms is in Rockwall. So we have the convenient thing here now, and just the coincidental thing of a weapons company, L3 British Aerospace, building a new facility right on top of an alleged rock room that pertains to this ancient rock wall that could have been a storehouse for ancient technology. Now, ancient alien technology from the time of Atlantis. So if Atlantis and Aslan are the same thing, and I believe it's an energy vortex. That's why Rockwall is the richest county and the smallest county in the state of Texas. They're building I told you guys about this. They're building this new courthouse there that looks like a goddamn, it looks bigger than the Texas State Capitol. It's fucking huge. It looks like a gigantic Masonic cathedral. You should Google Rockwall, Texas new courthouse and see if you find any pictures. It's insane, this thing, man. So what I believe is I believe that because also you have Ralph Hall, who's a Council for National Policy member. He's a CMP member. He's a Freemason, local lodge there in Rockwall. He's got his offices right across the street from the old courthouse, right on top of one of the rock rooms. And allegedly he has one of the 2-ton stone blocks in his house that he won't let anybody see that has a Proto-Canaanite language on it, a language that's only been found in pre-Canaanite Semitic languages. This guy's got it down there, won't let anybody see it, but yet says it's just a natural formation. Don't worry about it. We got this. So what I believe is I believe that these guys, these cocksuckers, these priest-class bozos, these alleged, Christian Republican types, they know full well what is under Rockwall. They know what you and I know. They know it's an ancient civilization, possibly the ancient civilization of Atlantis, a.k.a. Aslan. And they know that if that ever got out to the larger public, there'd be a war over the land. Mexico would want to reclaim it. This is why people get so nervous when you start talking about the rock wall. This is why people don't want you looking into it. Because the implications of this information getting out could mean war, could mean civil war, could mean unrest, could mean fighting over a piece of land that a large amount of people may believe they have a heritage to. Because it's proven that, number one, Quetzalcoatl was an expert in what? Crystals and metalworking, metallurgy. Now, they found embedded inside of this wall a metal disc thousands of years before metallurgy and smelting and any of that stuff. It was a smelted copper, or it was like copper, tin, aluminum. It was 4 or 5 different metals smelted together and made a wheel. It was inside of the wall, and I held it in my hand, folks. I did. I saw it at John Lindsay's house. So we also have the geopolymer crystals this thing is made out of. Quetzalcoatl, again, was said to be a crystal expert. We have Arkansas, only, 3 hours from where Rockwall is. 2.5, 3 hours. So by foot, or by horse or something, that's still not that bad of a trip. And that's where it said that the Atlanteans got their quartz crystal for their technology. I mean, you seeing the pattern here? So I think that combined with all this other evidence where it said that the Mesoamericans, the people who came down and then formed the Aztecs and the Mayans, started in a northern area of what was then Mexico and then moved down. And it talked about Quetzalcoatl setting up setting up Aslan. It was set up. I found this picture, this painting of what it was supposed to look like. And it was this round-shaped area that was broken up in different rooms. Now, that's exactly what they found under Rockwall. They found these various rooms, these temple rooms and various different round rooms, and that's exactly what Quetzalcoatl's Aslan looks like in these artist renderings. So to answer your question, Carlos, and that's that's a great question, and I love those kind of questions because it makes me have to really explain everything that I know about it. Do I think that they know that? Some of these Mexican groups, La Raza and La Mecha, know that. Most of them, I would say, probably don't. But we can change that, and I can change that, and I plan on trying to change that. I don't have any stake in who, in this race war bullshit, but I do have a stake in the freedom of people and the freedom of people's heritage. And I don't think that any of us, regardless of what our nationality is or race or anything else, should be lied to about our past, our heritage. That's what it's about for me. That may be radically different than some member of La Raza or Mecha. They may not see it the same way I do, but I can't change that. That's not up to me. That's up to them. It's one of the things about freedom, Now, one of those people may hear that information or see some of this information and more of the stuff that we find out and come out with in our furthering investigations. That's really where I want to get into next. I need to find some way to get a big amount of funding, folks. I don't know how to do that, but I need to find some way to get a big a couple $100,000. Because I want to do that next. After I get See Right 2 out, I want to do that next. I'm going to dive right into this rock wall thing. I want to get some digs going. I'm really on fire about this. But I think some of those people who are more interested in their heritage and feel that their heritage is being taken away, I think they would probably be very interested in that. And I'll tell you, I've been telling you guys pretty much since I started this show that I've seen the indicators of civil war and the indicators of them trying to brew that. And we have some news stories here tonight. We'll get into that. We'll cover that as well. But Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Fish, a.k.a. Little Chicago, Carlos there. And I hope that answered your question, man. It's definitely something I want to look more into in the future and get into there. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. That was... We're in 30 minutes of a section here. Yeah, I need to take a little break. And after I come back, we will get into the night's news. We'd love to hear emails from you as well. I got a couple of more emails in here. Let me see if I have... We'll get through the rest. Let's get through the emails first, then we'll take a break. Let's see here. That was a good one, though. That's why I asked you the same questions, you know. And we were getting some good ones for a while, and they've kind of dropped off. But, you know, don't ever be afraid to send me an email like that. You know, that was a great email. I mean, it was short. It was to the point. But it allowed me to, you know, iterate on a topic and maybe make that a little bit more clear for Carlos there. And I enjoy doing that. So never feel afraid to send me an email. And, you know, don't think that I'm high and mighty and I'm fucking some kind of like guru of knowledge or something, because I'm not. I'm just a dude. And so you're never going to ask me a stupid question or something. I'm going to go, oh, you know, ad. I do get pissy when people constantly send me sorts of known CIA disinfo op articles and go, oh my God, freak out about this, freak out. And I go, no, I'm not going to freak out about that. That's sorts of fall. It's all bullshit, you know, and then they get mad because I don't freak out, but you know, that passes. I talked about last week. We're going to get into more news about this tonight because there's been some developments last week. Like it always happens here. You know, I'll pick up a story. I'll pick a story up that I won't see anybody covering or talking about. It won't be in mainstream media hardly at all. It won't be in alternative media at all. I'll go, yeah, I came across this article. Remember I did that last week with that outbreak of, whatever it is, some kind of outbreak going on in over in the UK. We talked about the E. coli. There's some sort of super strain E. coli. We talked about that last week, and I briefly mentioned that many of these things, probably this E. coli as well, could have very well been a result of some of these bioweapons facilities. And if you were listening to that broadcast, you kind of heard me. I was like, I can't remember if it's Fort Detrick or there was some other bioweapons facility there or something. I don't remember which one it was, but you can look it up for yourself and find out. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, Cy Girl, one of our listeners and supporters in the chat room, I guess, wanted to make it very clear what my mistake was. So I'll read her email here. Josh, there is a considerable evidence that Lyme disease originated from the Federal Department of Agriculture and Biowarfare labs at Plum Island across the water from Lynn, Connecticut, not from Fort Detrick. Well, I'm not perfect. That's why it's good. Thank you for sending me this, Cy Girl, because, you know, yeah. But I just said, you know, hey, look it up on your own. That's, I'm not always going to be correct about things, but if I'm not correct, just if you go look it up and then find out on your own I'm not correct, then you can go, okay, hey, you know, you are aware this is this or whatever, you know. And if I agree, I'll say yes. If not, I'll start an argument with you. But it says that we all know Patsy Bruce Ivans from Frederick, Maryland was set up and then liquidated all in one day. It's important to get these details more precise because in reality there are scores of bioweapons labs all over the place. Yeah, but I mean, how I got there, every one of them. Yeah, there are scores of them all over the place. I agree with that. But the fact of the matter is, almost all of them, from what I found, are involved, and they're either storing anthrax. You've got one in Colorado where they're storing mass amounts of anthrax and stuff that they allegedly confiscated from Iraq and all that. They're all over the place. They've got one floating off New Jersey somewhere off an island. There are bioweapons labs everywhere. You know, I couldn't remember exactly what. Wow, I love that. You know. Like, what a faux pas. I can't remember exactly what bioweapons lab out of the fucking 5,000 of them there are where Lyme disease originated. Oh, my God, I must be slipping. So, yeah. So, thank you there, Side Girl, for that email. Let's see what else we've got. See. This one says, sorry for your recent loss, dude. I've been listening for a few months now. Usually not live since you're on late on the East Coast. People these days are just so selfish. Those idiots complaining because you hadn't done a show recently probably didn't know about your dad and uncle, but some of them still would have complained. Americans want what they want, and they want it now. Fuck everything and everyone else. Look at that Casey chick that chloroformed her daughter Kaylee to death so she could continue to go out and party and get drunk and high and have sex every night. And we wonder why kids act this way and why the government acts that way. We live in a nation of media-induced self-gratification and money worship, plain and simple. Honestly, I don't even waste my time with most people because I do not believe that they can awaken at a genetic level. Like you said about David Icke, they're psychic vampires. I'm tired of assholes draining the little positive energy I have left these days. There is something very different about the ones who remain asleep versus those who do not. And you know what? That is I don't know if a truer statement has ever been said, my friend. There is something very different about the ones who remain asleep versus those who do not. Here. That's absolutely true. And, you kind of feel like a freak when you point it out, But it absolutely is true. You see it on a day-to-day basis, man. You see it. There is something very, very different about those who remain asleep versus those who do not. Absolutely. And there's varying degrees of it, and sometimes it does get on that scary level. But, man, it's absolutely true. Well, now, for the lighter side, he says, when I first heard you, I thought you were Mike Chambers. Your voices are a little similar, but you don't sound too much alike to me anymore. Plus, your analysis is a lot more esoteric and in-depth. Mike basically covers the news and only the news. Nothing against him, of course. And take care, man. I'll try to chip in something in the coming months. George in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you, George. Yeah, Mike Chambers, man. Yeah, he's Mike Chambers is a great guy. I don't think I could ever say anything bad about Mike. Yeah, he does the news, nothing but the news, and that's But I'll tell you this. I will tell you a little secret about Mike Chambers, though. And before I tell you that, I owe a lot to Mike Chambers. He's the guy that got me started in radio. So if I tend to sound like him sometime, we're both Southern boys. We're both kind of big old boys. We got a lot in common. We like a lot of the same type of music. And I'll tell you this. I don't know. Mike's a real sweet guy. He gave me my first show. He gave me my start. He gave me my platform. He was the first guy that put me on the air and said, I don't care what you talk about. Just don't say the Carlin 7 dirty words, whatever. And, of course, here we are. I got my own network where I can say all those goddamn motherfucking cocksucking titty sucking words. I can say it all. That was Mike's only thing, Yeah, he gave me my start. And Mike is, he really, I probably have stolen. He's a radio guy, so I probably have stolen some little inflections and things from him through the years. Not really stolen them intentionally, but, just little things you pick up on. But, he's a radio talent, and I have become a radio talent, and it does have a lot to do with Mike Chambers. And I'll tell you, this is a little secret, though, I will tell you about Mike that a lot of you may not know out there. Mike knows a hell of a lot more and is interested in a hell of a lot more topics than he will ever discuss or talk about on his show. Not because he's scared or cares what anybody will think about those opinions or anything like that. It doesn't have anything to do with that for Mike. It's just that some people, not me, I have fucking whatever I research, man, whatever goes in me, it gets regurgitated shit back out right here on the show for you on the microphone. I mean, nothing stays in, man. It just pours right back out. It's like a natural reflex. If I don't do a show for a couple of days and I've stored up information, it's like taking a big poo, man. It's like, you just got to let it out in order to feel better and live and survive. That's sort of how it is for me. But Mike is kind of the opposite of that. And Mike is sort of one of those guys who he has his show and it's about news and it's about this and it's a certain thing. But you get to know him off air and you talk to him about stuff off air. And he's, he probably would agree with 90% of the stuff that we talk about on even some of the deeper stuff here on this show. I don't think Mike never had any ideology disagreements. I'm sure there were things he disagreed with me about, and there certainly were things I disagree with him about, but basic stuff, the basic idea that we, none of us know the real story, so we all have to continue to look, yeah, thank you so much there for that. Another great email. I'm trying to see. Here's another one. Dear Josh, my condolences for your recent losses. Brother Josh. Oh, stepping up in the world. I'm a brother now. Right. Oh, well. Let me put my hand in my coat. Swear my allegiance to Jobulon, right? I'm just kidding. It says, thanks for the info on what has become of the secession movement. I had predicted this some time ago, but I didn't think it would come so soon. It was the only viable option for Texas and Texans, despite the NWO wanting to break up America. Reason, because if the movement hadn't been co-opted by the operatives and politicians, it would be the best thing for for Texas to go back to being its own republic. Well, exactly. If you look at fundamentally how that was set up and why Texas had that stipulation and set that stipulation up, yeah. But as he's saying here, now that the manipulators have taken over, now the people that know how to operate under color of law and to change the law to fit them and everything else, they figured out a workaround around that. See, and now they've co-opted the idea that it's in the if the citizens ever decide to secede from the union, we're going to be fucked. So how do we initiate this clause so that this clause can never be initiated by the people, and make sure that this doesn't work against us and works in our favor? The only way to do that is to have a staged secession that is ran by these Bilderberg cocksuckers like Governor Perry and others. So absolutely, I don't think me or anybody else would argue with you that the original idea of Texas having the right to secede from the Union had merit and was put there for a good reason and good purpose. But these bastards, in order to make sure that the people can never use that option, are going to kill the United States, they're going to kill the state of Texas, so that they can own and control the phony secession, not the secession of the people that would cause a lot of problems with the world order. That's what it caused. My goodness. So that's another one. That's got to be. I think if there's going to be any hope, that's got to be reclaimed. That's got to be taken back. I don't know how or by what means or anything else. I wouldn't pretend to throw my hat into what the suggestion would be for that. But I would say it's my opinion, DR, who sent this to me. I think this is from David. Is this from David? Yeah, it is from David. Thank you, David. David's been listening for years. I think Dave started listening back when I was on the RBN. Saturday mornings, I used to call into my show on Saturday. Oh, shit you not. But yeah, I had to agree with you, man. That's, it's got to be reclaimed somehow. And with, it should be a red flag immediately when you see, Jones and Rick Perry both calling for secession. That should be a huge red flag of what they want with this, what they're really looking to do. This, I tell you what could be the linchpin in this staged phony Civil War scenario. We'll talk more about that in the news later, but what could really be the linchpin? It just got me thinking synchronistically enough with that email from Carlos, this rock wall thing. Substantial evidence was built up and shown that the powers that be are covering up what's there because, well, essentially for all intents and purposes, it proves what, the Aztec cultures and stuff we're talking about what Lemez and La Racha and Mecha and La Raza and these different groups believe that, the Southwest is a part of Mexico, is Aztlan, the ancient kingdom of Aztlan, and that was proven to be real. You wouldn't have a civil war anymore where it was, left versus right or, this group over here that want to go with Obama and this group over here that don't want to go along with the government and fighting against each other in the new civil war. The tide could turn on that real quick with evidence about this, being a true Mexican historic area. The true evidence that the whole South could actually be Aztlan, as they say it is, could turn the tide from immediately from it being us fighting against each other to everybody turning against the people in charge and the rulers and the people that are enslaving us and keeping this knowledge from us. You see that? I mean, that's why I've got, I've got to make this the next project. This has got to be the next thing I do. I've got to find somebody, some way out there to fund the Rockwall research expedition and film. I got to do this. This could be it. This could be the time that turns it from us fighting each other over, immigration and liberals and conservatives and teabaggers and people who love Obama. Let's fight each other and have a civil war. To no, look what these people are doing. Look how they've lied to us. Look how they've kept our heritage and the true knowledge of who and what we are, what we're capable of, hidden from us, so that we kill each other and destroy each other, not destroy them. It could be what could turn the tide on that. And as I talked about, we'll get into more of that in some of the news here coming up in just a bit, folks. David goes on and says, America is dead and it's not coming back. Best get used to it and deal with it. Been saying that for a long time. That's not negative. That's not pessimistic. People always, when you say that, though, Dave, they all want to, well, you just give it up, aren't you? Blah, blah, blah. No. Being honest with yourself and being honest about the situation and telling the truth about it is not giving up or giving in or resisting. Just people get all butthurt. America's dead and it's not coming back. Best get used to it and deal with it. And I've said that over and over on the show through the years, and people always, come down on me for saying that, as if I'm admitting defeat. That's some admission of defeat. By saying that's not an admission of defeat at all. It's just a fact. And as he said, best get used to it and deal with it. How are you going to live inside of it? You can be aware 7 ways to Sunday that their new system and the new world order is coming down the pike, but have you made any sort of thought to how you're going to exist and continue to survive and live inside of it? Like the people did in Germany after the fall of Nazi Germany, like people had to do in Russia. We're reaching that point. He goes on to say here that one of my grandfathers was the first governor of the Spanish territory of what is now Texas, and another one of my grandfathers was the first mayor of San Antonio. I was willing to volunteer to be the benevolent dictator of Texas until we could get the republic back in order. Then I would hand over reins to a legitimate body of representatives of the republic. For real. Well, that's crazy. Anyways, I did not know that AJ had become involved in the secession movement. Once I heard you say that on air, I immediately removed the Texas Secede sticker from my truck. Good for you, buddy. Good for you, because you know what? You don't need to have a sticker on your truck to believe in something or believe in, I agree with you 100% that the whole idea of Texas secession, the idea of why it was set up, is the right thing to do. But again, these guys are making sure that the people never initiate the secession, only that the powers that be do. And folks, that's not why Texas secession was set up, okay? It was not set up for that. And they're getting all these brainwashed right-wingers to go along with this, not knowing they're walking right into the New World Order they claim to be against. Jones is leading people right into the goddamn New World Order he claims to be against by getting people to believe in this phony secessionist stuff. For that alone, he is the enemy. Not to mention everything else we got on this guy through the years. Anyway, he goes on and says, really pisses me off the idea has already been corrupted. It could have worked in the right situation, even with the NWO wanting to break up America into 10 FEMA regions. Oh, well. Josh, since America is dead, not coming back no matter what, at least not the America our fathers grew up in, what would you like to see happen? Maybe you can answer this on air. Man. Phew. You have to be, we all have to be aware that empires and regimes and things like this are built up, allowed to exist for a certain period of time, and brought down. Look at what happened in the late 80s, early 90s. The fall of the Soviet Empire. There are still people living, breathing, existing in that country that were there when it was, the USSR, right? The country went through tough times. They rebounded. They're run by the mob, and everybody loves each other, and everybody pirates everything, and they're the world's leading exporters of porn now. Yay for Russia, But that's, that's where we're heading. We're still all going to live in this country, but it's not going to be the United States of America anymore, and the rules are not going to be the same, and it's not going to be the same place that we all grew up in. What would I like to see happen? Well, I know just what I told you earlier, bud. I'd like to see people realize that we, the people, are not the enemy. We, the people, are not the ones that are supposed to be fighting against each other. We, the people, are supposed to be rising up against those who attempt to enslave us and to keep our minds in a state of arrested development and keeping us from knowing our true potential and what we can do as a species on this planet and in combination and in conjunction with this planet. Instead of raping it and taking what we need from it and leaving it behind like an old condom. So what I would like to see happen, and what I am going to see happen, is that people are going to realize, whether it be through this rock wall thing or whatever other medium, that each other, us, left, right, blah, 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 we're not the enemy, they are. They've constructed these phony paradigms. They've created this phony reality to get us all destroying each other so we don't destroy them and we do their job for them. So it's our goal to not let that happen. You want to get me? We want to know what I want to see happen. That's it right there, buddy. Anyway, great email. Thank you, David, and appreciate that email. All right. Man, oh man, I've been in a Megadeth mood lately. I've been playing the shit out of Megadeth. You guys are going to have to deal with it for a while. Anyway, it's Metal Monday, so we got to continue that, don't we? Tell me there's no other. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us tonight. And we're going to be getting into the news for this evening. And we would love to hear from you as well through the email, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com.
Suck Satan's cock.
And we'll get you up. And anything you'd like to hear me talk about tonight, you can send it there. All right, great email. So also, again, please support our work at theglobalreality.com. Any amount you want to do there, you can use the donate button. You put any amount in there on up to, I don't know, 10 grand a day or something. But you can put any amount you want in there. If you want to send a larger grant or donation to help us grow larger, you can do that there. Monthly subscription thing as well, where you can get it where it comes out of your bank account every month. And the chipping banner there that pays the bills and everything else for us. So please support us. We did have to just pay the bills, so, we have to keep going, and we're running pretty low. So thanks to everybody out there. And let's get into our news tonight. I was seeing a link in the chat room a few nights ago, and I didn't quite know what to think of it. It was this NASA link, JPL small body database browser, and it says the planets are white lines, the asteroid comet is a blue line, the bright white line indicates a portion of the orbit that's above the elliptic plane, the darker portion is below the ecliptic plane, likewise for the asteroid comet orbit, and it shows the comet Elenin, and it shows this direct path that it goes and slams all the way, it goes right past Earth and slams right directly into Venus and goes past Venus. And I immediately was like, well, that seems kind of strange. I mean, it was last year we had covered the Japanese Icarus spacecraft that they had launched to go and orbit around Venus and monitor Venus, and then it was going to fly on the other side of Venus, on the other side of the sun, which can't be seen from Earth. And I said, I bet they're going to monitor this alleged planet called Vulcan. And of course, we find out in Greek mythology, Icarus, how Icarus relates to Vulcan, and there you go. So then I was also surprised to find out, and doing a little digging into this, that apparently the people that believe in Nibiru and Planet X, and as much as you would probably think that I would be one of those people, I'm actually not. I think it's a red herring for this thing called Vulcan, which I think actually does have effects on the planet and different things like that. And I think that the Nibiru thing's been a red herring to cover that up because it doesn't tie in with the 2012 event. So, they can't really use it to fearmonger that. So I don't know whether this comet Elenin is Nibiru or whether it isn't or what it's going to happen. But possibly, maybe it's going to slam. Maybe it's some sort of, maybe it's not a comet at all. Maybe it's something they're launching that's going to slam into Venus and destroy it, and then maybe this other planet Vulcan is going to slide into its orbit. I don't know, but it definitely does show that in the information here in this link. I'll drop a chat room link to that in the chat room. That's where it originated from. Very odd stuff, nonetheless. This is odd too. This is an article that came out last week. I had this in my stack last week. I didn't get to cover it on the show. And it makes you wonder about, there's several of these, we've been talking about all the archaeological discoveries that have been coming out over the past several weeks and months and years. Every day, some new thing is discovered that is, blows away the last huge earth-shattering discovery. And I've often pointed out that I think that regardless of, whether or not the alleged documents known as Project Bluebeam are real or faked or whatever have you, the one thing that you have to key in on in those documents is the fact that they talk about, prior to rolling out this Bluebeam holographic technology to fake, the rapture, essentially, fake aliens, is that there'd be mass amounts of UFO activity all over the earth as they were testing out this technology. And then also that there'd be archaeological discoveries that would bring about questions of what mankind really knows about themselves. So I found those coincidence very, very interesting, as well as some of these new alleged discoveries that are going on. Another listener had sent me a link to the video. The guy that you guys have obviously heard about this by now. It's been on Fox News. Even at this point, this guy allegedly found this big, gigantic base on Mars. And to tell you, somebody sent that to me, wanted my opinion on it. So I meant to cover that earlier in the emails. But I'll tell you what. Something stinks about it to me. I could be wrong about this, but I have the sneaking gut suspicion that what this is a intentional, especially being on Fox News. But I think that this is a something that they've been hinting about Mars for a long time, haven't they? We've seen just a constant fixation on Mars and constantly searching for water and all this other stuff. It seems like people have been fixated on Mars, and then lo and behold, here's this amateur astronomer who appears to have found some gigantic, huge base on Mars. Now, whether that's some secret thing of ours, maybe that's what the thing was. There a rumor going around a while back? Some chick who was one of the president's daughters or something like that. Was she a Roosevelt, or I can't remember? She was hanging out with those clowns like Fulford and stuff, and they were talking about how they have this portal jump technology and that the elite are building a base on Mars, and they have the ability to jump through a portal from Earth to Mars and back and forth. And they're going to jump on into this, bug out shelter thing through this portal on Mars and ride out Earth catastrophes and let everybody die and then come back and assume control. Something like that. But I don't know. Maybe it is that. Maybe it is something that they're going to, come out later and say, we don't have any idea what this is. This could be extraterrestrial, and this is how they're going to roll out the aliens to us. It very well could be that. It's an interesting story, one that we'll definitely watch and keep an eye on here and talk about and cover as it progresses. Bet your bottom dollar on that one. But a couple of weird astronomy-related articles here. This one, striking view of Milky Way twin from BBC News. Astronomers have released what they say is the best yet picture of NGC 6744, a spiral galaxy described as a sibling of our own Milky Way. This is sort of a parallel universe type thing here. I mean, they found a almost a mirror image of our Milky Way with everything in its exact same correct position. It's odd. The image was snapped by the European Southern Observatory's MPG ESO 2.2 meter telescope in Chile. The galaxy lies 30 million light years away in the constellation Pavo. While it's almost twice as large as the Milky Way, it exhibits the same sharply defined spiral arms and stretched central region. There is even a small companion galaxy visible at the lower right of the image, which is analogous to our own galactic neighbors, the Magellanic Clouds. Now, see, that's just, it's almost an exact mirror image, folks. This is insane. Almost like it's a parallel universe, as we've heard about. Those arms host many star-forming regions. The glow coming from the hydrogen gas in these active regions shows up as red in the image. So just a very strange and interesting article, and one that, Laura Eisenhower, thank you, that's who it was. But definitely one that's very interesting to me. Where'd the other one go? Just a second here. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. This one comes from space.com. NASA says the edge of the solar system is filled with bubbles. I remember last week when I was talking about, these space serpents and these different things that appear to, they've been caught on tape by Story Musgrave and been caught on tape from the space shuttle several times. I know John Glenn and several other people saw critters and fireflies and that kind of thing. And they literally look like, not ships or UFOs or planes, but things that are actually like swimming through the ether, swimming through. And it sort of made me think that maybe space isn't a vacuum like we've been told. What if it's something like a liquid, almost like a water type of thing? That, that is just a very interesting idea. And especially when you see how these things move and you see these, these bubbles that came up on this alleged Chinese spacewalk that they did. The edge of our solar system is filled with a turbulent sea of magnetic bubbles, according to new NASA research. Scientists made the discovery by using a new computer model, which is based on data from NASA's twin Voyager probes. Vigor. Remember what was that in the first Star Trek, the motion picture? I think it was trying to find Vigor. Vigor is the all-knowing. Turned out to be the Voyager, and it was all because it just was designed to go out and find information, and so it was just amassing whole, planets and solar systems of just becoming this gigantic entity because it was programmed only to find information. So it was trying to find the source and reconnect with the source. A lot of people put that movie down, but it's a really, really kind of deep, heavy type of a movie if you ever saw it. Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the first one. The unmanned Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, which launched in 1977, are plying the outer reaches of our solar system, a region known as the Helios sheath. The new discovery suggests that research will need to revise their views about the solar system's edge. NASA officials said a more detailed picture of this region is key to our understanding of how fast-moving particles known as cosmic rays are spawned and how they reach near-Earth space. Cosmic rays are a threat to astronauts as they slam into space flyers' cells and damage their DNA. Earth's atmosphere attenuates cosmic rays, shielding folks on the ground level from their worst effects. NASA hasn't revealed many details about the new find. The space agency will hold a media teleconference at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on June 9th to discuss it more in depth. So very interesting stuff there. More and more of these letting little things out when it comes to, the planets and all of this knowledge. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, I was talking about this earlier. Yeah, seems that the ramping up with the secession stuff we talked about, the ramping up with civil unrest. James Carville says that 2012 could be very rough for Obama, and it says civil unrest is imminently possible. That's quite a hell of a thing for ex-Clinton operative James Carville to say. Whoever thought the saying "it's the economy, stupid" from James Carville in 1992 would become a staple in presidential elections 20 years later? That expression made its way into the campaign in 2008, and according to Carville, it would be the theme of the 2012 campaign as well. as President Barack Obama seeks re-election. In an appearance on Monday's Imus in the Morning on the Fox Business Network, the former Clinton advisor said that based on the May jobs number, if the unemployment picture doesn't improve, 2012 could be rough for the president. Yeah. I think they've told us it's going to be rough on all of us, hadn't they? These guys, man, they just don't quit. We talked last week about the E. coli outbreak, and of course it's, spread like wildfire, become big news now. And with Germany saying that they've traced it to Sprouts. And now apparently they have said, no, it's not Sprouts. Now we don't know what it is. Well, that's comforting. First, they pointed a finger at Spanish cucumbers. Then they cast suspicion on Sprouts from Germany. Now, German officials appear dumbfounded as to the source of the deadliest E. coli outbreak in modern history, and one U.S. expert has called the investigation a disaster. Well, that tells you right there that my initial summation that we had last week on the show about this being a gigantic operation, probably bioweapons related, was probably correct. Now, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, you can just smell it, man. Backtracking for the second time in a week, officials Monday said preliminary tests have found no evidence that vegetable sprouts from an organic farm in northern Germany were to blame. It's from the Associated Press, by the way. The surprise U-turn came only a day after the same state agency, Lower Saxony's Agriculture Ministry, held a news conference to announce that the sprouts appeared to be the culprit in the outbreak that has killed 22 people and sickened more than 2,330 people across Europe, and most of them in Germany over the past month. Andreas Hensel, head of the Germany's Federal Institute for Risk Assessment, warned we have to be clear on this. Maybe we won't be able anymore to identify the source. Oh, yeah, well, that'd be convenient, wouldn't it? Because all of the indicators last week pointed out that this pointed in the direction that this was a stage-engineered outbreak. Now, there's been rumors flying around the internet that China or Russia or somebody is fucking with the food supply, trying to make the poison a lot of the food supply so they can control the food. Very well could be what's going on there too. Last week, German officials pointed to tainted cucumbers from Spain as a possible cause, igniting vegetable bans and heated protests from Spanish farmers who suffered heavy financial losses. Researchers later concluded that Spanish cucumbers were contaminated with a different strain of E. coli. The investigation has been a disaster. This kind of wishy-washy response is incompetent. The European Health Commissioner defended German investigators, saying they were under extreme pressure as a crisis. Yeah, they're always under extreme pressure. It's always, you ever notice that? I mean, who writes this shit? It's so retarded. Well, they were under extreme pressure, so that's why they couldn't figure out where this stuff was coming from. No, they figured out right where it's coming from. Now the story is how to spin it in the media so that you can't go print in the Associated Press that this stuff originated at some bioweapons lab or something, which is where it always ends up back to. E. coli confirmed in a Southwest Virginia child that died, possibly outbreak under investigation. They're saying now that it may be breaking out here in the United States. This is this came out today, 5:16 p.m. It was updated. The Tri-Cities.com out of Virginia. Lab results confirm the presence of E. coli in the child that died this weekend and the presence of the bacteria in a close contact with the child, Virginia Department of Health Public Information Officer Robert Parker said. The lab results confirm the presence of E. coli 0157H7. That's a strain of E. coli that causes severe illness. Northeast Regional Health Officer, Medical Director Dr. David Kirch also confirms a similar severe strain in Northeast Tennessee. We have one case of the severe type in Tennessee, and may be similar to what the two kids from Virginia had. In the Tennessee case, Dr. Kirk said a Northeast Tennessee child is suffering from complications in a Knoxville hospital. Meanwhile, he says there are 7 other confirmed cases of E. coli from 4 northeastern Tennessee counties. You guys notice how some of these different things attack young people? I'm starting to think that some of these race-specific bioweapons and gender-specific bioweapons and personality-specific bioweapons and all this different crap they have now, I'm starting to think they're launching some of this stuff against certain kids and with certain genetic traits they've identified as something as a problem for them. Got a related story to that I'll bring up here in just a bit, but I've seen that pattern, man. I think they're trying to wipe out certain kids with certain traits and, keep them from becoming adults so they don't have, more fuckers like me and you on their hands. That's no joke. We'll talk more about that in a bit with another related article here. Meanwhile, he says there's another 7 confirmed cases of E. coli from 4 northeastern Tennessee counties. So, man, oh man, it seems to be spreading now into the United States and Virginia and Tennessee. That is going to be, looks like we're going to have swine flu 2 electric boogaloo on our hands. Insane. Let's see. Where did that other related story go that I had? Let me look. Where did it go? Here it is. Parents outraged after school application asks, was your child delivered by C-section? Now, this is interesting. Because for a lot of years, people who have been identified as indigo children or crystal children or, whatever the different names and epitaphs they have. But generally, children of certain, characteristics who are believed to be, these enlightened spirits incarnating in these bodies and stuff. It very well could be that many of us, who are into this information and stuff are these types. So many of us were probably born with cesarean sections. I certainly was. In fact, the cord was wrapped around my neck, and there's just been this thing for a lot of years where people believe that people who are delivered by C-section are going to be of higher intelligence and different stuff like that. But apparently this school is asking now. This is a huge red flag and definitely leans a lot of credence towards the idea that special children, crystal children, indigo kids, or just people who are, a different type of person and have a different type of intelligence, certainly the type of intelligence that would be a threat to the power structure, are now being attempted to be, identified prior to even coming into a school. Listen to this. School chiefs in California have come under fire for asking intimate questions about how its children were delivered during birth. Parents hoping to enroll their children in the Dry Creek School District have to complete an application form that asks if their child was delivered naturally or by cesarean section. Those mothers who tick the C-section option are then asked to explain why the procedure was performed. Well, it's none of your goddamn business. But parents in Roseville, California, who are presented with the form as they try to enroll their children in school, say the intimate questions are a breach of privacy. I don't think that the school is asking if the child was delivered vaginally. I don't really think that the school asking if the child was delivered by vaginally or by C-section is appropriate. She said vaginally. And you're talking about appropriate? You could have just said natural birth, not C-section. You had to say vaginally. A mother of 2 identified it as Heather. Gentlemen, direct your attention to the main stage for Heather. Heather, she's protesting C-sections. All right. What next? This is an invasion of our privacy, she said. Heather said that she had asked the school to explain their reasoning behind the evasive questions, but had yet to receive a reply. So they're not saying anything. They're not answering now. They're scrambling, trying to figure out, who's going to be the fall guy for this. Because this is blatant. This is obvious. They think people won't pay attention. They think people won't stand up for this stuff. There's a specific reason why they're asking if these children were born by C-section. They wanted to see if they can determine if that person might, think outside the box and be, not be their normal, left brain, right brain type of thinking they're looking for. School chiefs were also contacted by a reporter from CBS 13, but no reply was forthcoming. So there's 2. They won't answer anything. The question on the enrollment form asked parents to say whether their child was born by C-section. A number of scientific studies and medical journals have concluded that the method of birth delivery cannot be linked to intelligence. Right. That's how they throw that. Oh, no, it's not linked. That's not why. We didn't. Okay. First off, I asked the question, are they doing this because, they want to identify kids that have certain traits so they can single them out and do things like they did to me when I was in school. So that's probably the one thing I wish I could have got to tell my dad before he died. probably the one thing. But, wherever he is, he knows now. But so it probably doesn't matter. But one thing I wish I could tell my dad was that all those years when I was in school, when the teachers would tell my parents that I wasn't doing my homework or that I wasn't, I made these grades, it was all a lie. No matter what school I went to, no matter where I was at, these teachers everywhere, man, they would say I didn't do my homework when I did. They would make up shit about me. They would say I, forged my parents' signature on progress reports and stuff like that, which I did not. They'd make up all kinds of manner of things about me. I wish, I really wish I could tell my dad that, but, so immediately that kind of sparked to me, okay, that's why they're looking for this. But they throw in here in this article, a number of scientific studies in medical journals have concluded that the method of birth delivery cannot be linked to intelligence. Well, thanks for offering that up there, bucko. Cesarean deliveries have reached an all-time high in the U.S., with nearly 1 in 3 babies now delivered by C-section compared to 1 in 5 just decades ago. Almost 1.4 million newborns were delivered surgically in 2007, a 53% increase from the mid-1990s. So it's a very interesting thing there. 1 in 4 U.S. hackers is an FBI informant. I've been telling you that for years. That's who hires the hackers, the feds. Who do you think writes the viruses? The antivirus companies, software companies. There are viruses out there. They can't sell their products to you every year. The underground world of computer hackers has been so thoroughly infiltrated by the U.S. and by the FBI and Secret Service that it is now riddled with paranoia and mistrust. With an estimated 1 in 4 hackers secretly informing on their peers, a Guardian investigation is established. Cyber policing units have had such success in forcing online criminals to cooperate with their investigations through the threat of long prison sentences that they have managed to create an army of informants deep inside the hacking community. In some cases, popular illegal forums used by cyber criminals as marketplaces for stolen identities and credit card numbers have been run by hacker turncoats acting as FBI moles. In other words, undercover FBI agents posing as carders, hackers specializing in ID theft, have themselves taken over the management of crime forums using intelligence gathered to put dozens of people behind bars. So, yeah, I mean, we've known that for years. The hackers, anytime you hear of a big hack job, it's government sanctioned. All big hacks that you hear about on television, and big hacks have happened for years. They happen all the time. You never hear about them on TV. Doesn't mean hacking hasn't been going on and that systems haven't been being compromised for years and years and years. Big systems, DOD systems, financial systems, hell yeah, they've been compromised for years. But you never hear about them on TV. No, you won't hear about them on TV. Brotherhood approved only, baby. That's what you hear about. They're fear-mongering Iran again. I guess now they've got the boogeyman Osama all taken care of. Remember, the IAEA kept coming out with all the reports. Iran won't have nuclear power or ability to make a nuclear weapon for 4, 5, 6 years. Now they're saying 2 months, 2 months, 2 months. Yeah, so they're fear-mongering Iran again. Get ready for that. The summer of fear, the return.
Oh, yes, the summer of fear is back, motherfucker.
Indeed. Oh, this is just. Oh, my damn microphone almost fell off the desk. This is just wonderful right here. Again, to show you how, fucked up mankind is. And we always think we have the solutions, and then we don't realize what our solutions also just cause more damage. Perfect example here. The Green Killer. Scores of protected golden eagles dying after colliding with wind turbines. California's attempts to switch to green energy have inadvertently put the survival of the state's golden eagles at risk. Scores of the protected birds have been dying each year after colliding with the blades of about 5,000 wind turbines. Now the drive for renewable power sources such as wind and the sun have been promoted by President Obama and State Governor Jerry Brown has raised fears that the number of newborn golden eagles may not be able to keep pace with the number of turbine fatalities. The death count along the ridgeline of the Bay Area's Altamont Pass wind resource area has averaged 67 a year for 3 decades. A 200-foot-high turbines, which have been operating since the 1980s, lie in the heart of the grassy canyons that are home to one of the highest densities of nesting golden eagles in the United States. It would take 167 pairs of local nesting golden eagles to produce enough young to compensate for their mortality rate related to wind energy production. We only have about 60 pairs. Nationwide, about 440,000 birds are said to be accidentally killed at wind farms each year, as well as thousands more bats. With the government pushing for more wind energy farms, the statistics is likely to rise. I mean, oh no, we're doing good. Green energy, clean energy, free energy, and then we just kill the wildlife. But that's okay. That's acceptable. We don't really give a fuck if anything else is alive on this planet but us anyway, right? I mean, that doesn't really matter. We taxpayers have spent millions of dollars saving the California condo from extinction, and how's the public going to feel about wind energy if a condor hits the turbines? Blah, 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 blah. Well, there you go. What do you expect from a dog with fleas? An asteroid the size of a small motorhome zoomed near Earth on Wednesday night, coming closer to us than the moon ever does. The 23-foot-long space rock, named 2009 BD, came within 215,000 miles of Earth around 8:51 p.m. Eastern Time. The moon's average distance from us is about 239,000 miles. 2009 BD never threatened to hit Earth on this pass, researchers said, but even if the asteroid had slammed into us, it would have been a big deal. What happens if that comet Ellen that slams into Venus? That probably fucks some shit up for us pretty good, don't you think? I would definitely say so. Japan has finally confirmed that the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant experienced full meltdowns of all three reactors in the wake of the earthquake and tsunami in March. So they've finally just now admitted, after they've kept this information from the general public for a couple of months now, that all three nuclear reactors have reached meltdown, and did reach meltdown immediately after the earthquake and the tsunami. They're just now telling us that. Appreciate you. I mean, we could have gotten prepared and maybe taken our iodine tablets and all that, but I guess we can't do that now, huh? I mean, this is criminal. They knew since day one that all three had been meltdown, and they're just now admitting it. You can't help but have a conspiratorial view on this. You can't help but think this is by design. This is done with intent, with purpose. They're going to try to kill us any way they can, folks. That's why we have to continue to sharpen our most important weapon that we still have, and that's knowledge. That's information. That's what's going to be the thing that turns the tide, as I talked about earlier. When that pivotal moment happens, when people see that they've been lied to, they've been propagandized into believing that their brother or their fellow citizen or fellow member of the human species is their enemy, when the true enemy is the powers that be in charge that are instigating all of this, and there will be an event that happens. I think that the secrets of the rock wall would be a huge one. Could be the thing that turned the tide to keep us from destroying each other and go after the real problem, not us, them. Not us, them. We're not the problem. They're the problem. Let's take a break, come back, continue reading tonight from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden, and boy, oh boy, should be some good stuff here continuing on tonight. I want to thank everybody for staying up late with us. And we are indeed getting Moonbatty tonight. This is the Global Reality, folks. Hey, you really wish they wouldn't have faded that out there, huh? It sounds like Randy was going to keep going for a while. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us here tonight. And we're going to continue reading from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden tonight. We're going to pick up where we left off last week. We were in the middle of a chapter that where we were discussing the assassinations of both Kennedys, as well as the attempted assassination of President Reagan. So we're going to pick up tonight. We're right after where we left off last week, and this is going to get more into more assassinations and more stuff like that in this chapter. It's kind of a long chapter, so We're going to be trying to get through as much of this, if not all of this, for you here tonight on the broadcast. Again, my website, if you're listening to this on YouTube, we have some great listeners out there who painstakingly put the shows up every day for your listening pleasure and enjoyment on places like YouTube. And it gets the show out to a lot more people. So thanks to everybody who continues to spread the word about the show. So I want to make sure everybody always gets the website so they know where to come and find the rest of my stuff at. That's www.theglobalreality.com. That's www.theglobalreality.com. And that's where you find the radio stream, all my documentary films, all kinds of other stuff up there, news, and a whole slew of other things. Cool. I was just making sure I didn't have... I knocked something over. I thought I knocked over a drink or something. I thought it was to spill stuff all over my computers and stuff in here. But no, it's all good. Nothing spilled. But so yeah, that's where you find that. And www.theglobalreality.com. The chip and band, the donate button is there as well. Please use those and help us out. We need your support right now more than ever after just paying the bills. So it's been a rough time for us over the past several weeks, and still trying to recover from everything that's going on, and trying to get my head back into doing the work, And so please support and donate if you can there, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to continue on here tonight. William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. Perhaps the three shootings just discussed really were committed by lone assassins, with two of the shootings involving an accidental discharge from a firearm by a security agent. An assassination in the Philippines proved, however, that such scenarios may sometimes be the cover for a murder committed by an intelligence organization. The year was 1983. Benigno Aquino was a popular opposition leader in the Philippine Islands. The Philippines were then under the dictatorial rule of President Ferdinand Marcos. Marcos had declared martial law in the 1960s and never saw it fit to lift it. After 3 years of voluntary exile from his homeland, Aquino made a decision to return to his country, even though 6 years earlier he had been sentenced to death by a firing squad for his political activities. Aquino's airplane landed at Manila Airport on August 21st, 1983, surrounded by Filipino security officers. Aquino had just descended the stairs from the airplane when shots rang out. A bullet hit him in the back of the head and killed him. The lone assassin, Rolando Galman Aldawang, was on the tarmac, the runway area, and was instantly shot dead by a security man near him. The government immediately declared Galman the lone assassin and tried to close the case. Suspicions arose immediately. President Marcos had a motive for killing Aquino, and Aquino had already been sentenced to death. To quash these suspicions, Marcos convened an official panel to investigate the killing, similar to the Warren Commission, impaneled 20 years earlier in the United States to investigate the John Kennedy assassination. Critics charged that the Marcos panel was one-sided and pro-Marcos. Many doubted that the panel would come to any conclusion rather than the official one. Something unexpected occurred, however. The panel pursued the investigation objectively. It heard evidence about the powder burn on Aquino's head, indicating that the fatal bullet was fired from 12 to 18 inches away. The government claimed Galman had come that close, but eyewitnesses did not confirm this. A journalist on the plane testified that two security men standing right next to Aquino had pulled out their revolvers and pointed them at the back of Aquino's head just before the shots rang out. Overwhelming forensic evidence and eyewitness testimony indicated that Aquino was shot by one of the security men assigned to protect him. The lone assassin was nothing more than a crude cover. The Marcos Commission issued a finding to that effect. The panel findings resulted in the criminal indictments of several high-ranking military officers. A trial, however, all were acquitted. The vagaries of the Filipino justice system did not permit a great deal of crucial testimony acquired by the commission to be introduced at trial. A number of important witnesses for the prosecution did not appear. Several witnesses had reported being intimidated. after Marcos was ousted from office and sent into a plush Hawaiian exile by Benigno Aquino's wife, Corazon Aquino, witnesses came forward testifying that the trial had been rigged by Marcos. Other eyewitnesses to the shooting also came forward with further evidence corroborating that Benigno Aquino had been shot by a security man. The significance of the Aquino killing is that the scenario of the shooting is virtually identical to other lone assassins in other lone assassin episodes. If, for example, there existed a conspiracy behind either the RFK or Ronald Reagan shooting, then the modus operandi would appear to be identical to the modus operandi in the Aquino shooting. A mentally disturbed or political fanatical lone assassin is used as a cover for the true assassin who is on the scene as a security escort for the victim. This is important because the Filipino officers indicted for the masterminding of the Aquino shooting included General Fabian Ver and men under his command. Ver not only led the nation's military forces, but also its intelligence network. In other words, the lone assassin shooting of Benigno Aquino was a military intelligence operation, just as Kennedy was as well. This is significant because the Philippine Republic was a major U.S. ally at the time of the shooting, and the U.S. still has a large naval and air base there. The Philippines receive a great deal of aid from the United States, along with the U.S. military and intelligence advisors. The Filipino intelligence apparatus therefore owes much to the American CIA and U.S. military intelligence. This is not to say that the American sources were necessarily involved in the Aquino shooting. It simply shows how an important Western intelligence service recently utilized the lone assassin technique and used it so crudely that people saw through it immediately, even though U.S. newspapers, which have been quick to accept the lone assassin verdicts in American assassinations, ran editorials condemning the acquittal of the Filipino military men. Our hat should go off to those brave panel members who had the courage to look behind the lone assassin myth and to those eyewitnesses who were brave enough to testify. Such integrity is a precious commodity indeed. Modern lone assassins are not just American-related phenomenon. They remain international in scope. On May 13, 1981, during his appearance in the St. Peter's Square, Pope John Paul II was shot. He survived and still holds the papacy today. The convicted lone assassin, Miat Ali Akaga, had fired from a crowd that surrounded the papal automobile. Just call it the Pope Mobile. Come on. It's fair enough. Interestingly, the Italian police also arrested a second gunman in connection with the shooting and accused Bulgarian intelligence agents of being involved in a plot to kill the Pope. Bulgaria was still a communist nation at the time. Russia accused the American CIA of manufacturing this so-called Bulgarian connection for propaganda purposes. However, Western newspapers reported that the CIA had actually stepped in and put pressure on the Italian police to drop the case. The Italians succumbed to CIA demands after the accused assassin, Akaga, destroyed his own credibility by flip-flopping on his story and engaging in bizarre behavior. In Sweden, a significant lone assassin episode involved the killing of the very popular Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme. On February 28, 1986, Mr. Palme was strolling with his wife from a movie when a gunman ran up to the Prime Minister, fired twice, and fled into the night. Suspicions of a conspiracy arose quickly, but the word was quickly put out that the killing was the work of a lunatic. A suspect was eventually arrested, but he denied responsibility and was acquitted. In 1990, the Swedish government even paid him restitution for the time he spent in jail. As of this writing, no other suspect is due to go to trial. Well, the reason they do that is all they have to do is report once that, they caught the suspect. That's all they have to do. They just report it once. Yes, we've caught the suspect, we've caught the murderer, okay, and everybody says, oh, they caught him, all right, great. But then, it goes to trial and other evidence comes out, and this person gets acquitted and finds out that he had nothing to do with it, and even having to pay the guy restitution, and then that gets reported, back in the newspaper. Small print where you don't even see it, so they don't make a big deal out of that. They always do that. The final trial worth looking at occurred in West Germany on April 25th, 1990. Against Oscar Lafontaine. Mr. Lafontaine was premier of the Saarland state and running as the Social Democratic candidate for the office of Chancellor of Germany. He was on stage with another leading political Social Democrat, Johannes Rau. During a political rally, a person who appeared to be a security guard led a woman up on stage. The woman was carrying a bouquet of flowers. When she reached Mr. Lafontaine, she calmly whipped out a butcher knife and slashed his throat. Fortunately, Mr. Lafontaine survived despite a significant loss of blood, and he went on to finish his unsuccessful campaign. The assailant, Adelheid Streetel, was immediately apprehended and labeled a mentally deranged lone assassin. The attack, however, has the hallmarks of several previous lone assassin episodes we just looked at. Involvement of apparent security personnel, the so-called lone assassin showing signs of severe mental tampering, and the act committed openly. The use of the butcher knife instead of a gun makes Mrs. Streetel even more like the assassins of medieval Persia, who used bladed weapons. This assassination attempt occurred at a politically crucial time. Mr. Lafontaine was running against Chancellor Helmut Kohl. Mr. Kohl was a prime advocate for rapid German reunification and European unity, which would involve major shifts in world economics, politics, and military matters. Mr. Lafontaine and the Social Democrats were running on a platform of slowing down the German reunification process. As in the recent case of Adelheid Streetel, a significant element of nearly all recent lone assassin cases is the mental state of the lone assassins at the time of the assassinations. The apparent mental illness exhibited by so many of them may very well be evidence of mental tampering. Sirhan Sirhan was known to have been repeatedly hypnotized by friends who the police inadequately investigated. Eyewitnesses reported that Sirhan seemed to be almost in a trance on the night that he fired at Robert Kennedy. John Hinckley Jr. had had a great deal of psychiatric intervention during his pre-assassination days, and we still do not know what all of it consisted of. Did Hinckley receive any visionary implants similar to the ones that Adolf Hitler had received as a psychiatric patient at Pacewalk? Like the ancient assassins of Persia, Hinckley was motivated by the crazed notion that he would attain heaven by killing Reagan, except that Hinckley's heaven was the unattainable love of a certain female movie star. Hinckley thought that he would win that love by killing the president. The particular mental states of Mehmet Ali Akaga and other modern assassins, such as Squeaky Fromme, who tried to murder President Gerald Ford in 1975, are further indications that mental tampering may be a significant factor in most modern lone assassin episodes, just as it had been in medieval Persia. In light of the above, it is perhaps not surprising to discover evidence of the Brotherhood Network directly or indirectly linked to some modern assassinations. John Hinckley Jr., for example, belonged for a while to an American Nazi organization. Modern American Nazism, through such organizations as the Aryan Nations, is deeply influenced by Brotherhood-style mysticism, as was original German Nazism. Squeaky Fromme was a follower of Charles Manson, who preached a bizarre apocalyptic mysticism in a small California commune. Manson and his family were the ones who committed the horrific Tate LaBianca murders in Los Angeles in 1969. Interestingly, Manson was also a police informer. As long as the lone assassin technique continues to go unopposed, those nations victimized by it will never rise above the level of a banana republic. That includes the United States and nations in Europe. One need only look at the way in which such assassinations have influenced the succession of American presidents to appreciate just how damaging the technique is to a democracy. The problem with American leadership today is not so much a difficulty caused by the electoral processes or by shortcomings in the Constitution. The problem is that the electoral process and constitutions have been severely undermined by the assassinations of leaders and candidates. When police organizations contribute to this by ignoring and suppressing evidence and by otherwise hindering proper investigations, those police organizations become accessories to the crimes in a very real and legal sense. That is when democracy dies. Throughout this book, we have noted the role of the Brotherhood Network in perpetuating revolution. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about tonight with the secessionist stuff, with, Perry and Alex Jones and the whole lot. These phony revolutions that are created by, have been connected to the Brotherhood since time immemorial. This new and currently staged revolution is also being concocted by these same Brotherhood network people. Revolutions and armed resistance movements are expensive to run, and so we find that most of them are financed today by intelligence organizations. Now, that's a key statement to understand. Understand that when you see Alex Jones and his $1 million production in Russia today and all that crap. Revolutions and armed resistance movements are expensive to run, and so we find that most of them are financed today by intelligence organizations. One unfortunate byproduct of this activity is terrorism. Terrorist groups are an effective way to keep conflict alive. An interesting book entitled The Terror Network by Claire Sterling reveals the strong interconnections that have existed between seemingly unrelated terrorist groups. Terrorist organizations from around the world and of conflicting ideologies have been supported by mutual safe houses and suppliers. The Terror Network reveals that many of those mutual supply sources had connections to the Russian KGB, although this book fails to mention the role of Western intelligence services in supporting various forms of terrorism as well. The goal of some terrorist groups is to maintain a so-called permanent revolution, i.e., a violent revolution that never ends. This goal is rooted in the Marxist concept that class struggle is inevitable and must continuously occur for a utopia to emerge. Well, that's what we're seeing right now. Obama is an extension of that Marxist concept. Absolutely. You hear that talk of, well, we've got to struggle and we've got to do this. You hear that in his speeches, if you're listening. As we recall, this idea has its ultimate roots in the Calvinist teaching that a world at war is a world closer to God. The permanent revolution is therefore designed to keep people fighting constantly so that we will all be able to enjoy a future utopia. This sounds crazy, right? Of course it is. The permanent revolution, which has been financed by various intelligence services and is inspired by concepts that come out of the Brotherhood Network, is yet one more way to keep mankind in a constant state of war and disunity. And I couldn't agree with that more. This whole stage thing that's going on with the secessionists and Alex Jones and the truth movement, the teabaggers and all this stuff, it's just the current face of the continuation of this, as he put it here, this permanent revolution. It just changes its face and changes its name and its design over the years, but it is always there. And Alex Jones has become the face, the poster boy for this new phony permanent revolution. So never figure out how things out, but we just keep ourselves in a constant state of divide and conquer. And with all his connections, with all the connections of Jones with the priest class and with the Jesuits, I mean, my God, folks. This is beyond, people calling Alex Jones this and that because they're jealous of him or calling him this and that and saying he's a Zionist. I mean, folks, this guy, straight up, there's just no question, is an agent of the custodial master. There's no denying it now. And we can see that. It really does make you understand why this book's been suppressed for so long, Efforts to generate nonstop strife on Earth have apparently been so successful that they threatened to wipe out most of humanity. Powerful atomic weapons were built in preparation for yet another final battle between the forces of good and evil. To those who believe that nuclear war is unthinkable, think again. In the climate of endless confrontation we share on Earth, rarely have weapons gone unused. 2 atomic bombs were already dropped during World War II, and if we are to believe some evidence, they may have been used to wipe out human civilizations in the ancient past. Yeah. That talks about that in the Bhagavad Gita, the ancient Hindu text. Absolutely it does. The entire earth was reduced to ash. You dig down deep enough, you can get down there. They found it when they did the rock wall dig. You can find out there's a layer of pre-flood ash across the entire earth. There is a great many irony in this if manipulations by a custodial society do indeed ultimately lie behind human turmoil, the custodial society could soon find itself owing a very damaged piece of real estate. It is true that nuclear weapons are notoriously unstable, so that many atomic warheads will not explode if launched. But there has been enough of an overkill built to ensure that considerable damage would result from a nuclear exchange. Happily, the end of the Cold War brought about pledges for significant reductions in the U.S. and Russian nuclear arsenals. There is irony in this, too, however, in the light of the factions and hostilities that have replaced those of the Cold War. Once nuclear arsenals are reduced far enough, large-scale warfare will be impossible again, without the threat that such warfare would render Earth useless to apparent custodial owners. The lingering danger from remaining nuclear weaponry and proliferation would not come from unstable flying missiles, but from stationary bombs hidden at their target locations. The Pentagon expressed concern about such a possibility in a top-secret military report produced in 1945. This concern was expressed again in more recent years when efforts were underway to develop a so-called Star Wars anti-missile defense system, which utilizes laser beams to shoot down enemy missiles. Some strategists were afraid that a successful Star Wars system would encourage a hostile foreign power to smuggle and plant atomic bombs in the United States if it felt that its missiles would be ineffective. Such bombs can be easily stored and kept mobile in trucks or vans. The media publicized nuclear terrorism scare in the 1970s and indicate that some stationary bombs may already be in place in the United States. That's what many people believe the World Trade Center was. They'd planted that there, and it was there and built into it for years and years and years. Because they had built those towers after, because we didn't find out about Project Northwoods, the Operation Northwoods documents. They didn't get declassified until I think 2000. I can't remember when it was. Maybe right before 9/11. But in those the Operation Northwoods documents, they talk openly about, they lay out a Kennedy era 9/11 plan of staging a terrorist attack with hijacked airliners with students in them, flying into buildings and blame it on Cuba as a pretext to go to war with Cuba. That was prior to the building of the Twin Towers. So prior to the building of the Twin Towers, they had already laid out the plan that would eventually come to fruition on 9/11. That's in official government documentation, Operation Northwoods. So yeah, very well could still be, there could be things hidden all over the place right now that they may be roll out later for some false flag event or something. It is also important to keep in mind that the source of such bombs may not always be an enemy government or a hostile terrorist group. There always exists the danger that a nation's own government may secretly plant nuclear bombs within its own cities as a part of a scorched earth contingency war plan. In the same way that Switzerland has placed mines over all of its bridges in the event that an enemy invades and tries to use the bridges. In xenophobic nations, an internal nuclear threat of this kind can become very real. It is something that the people of every country with atomic weapons should remain wary of. The Cold War between the United States and former Soviet Union affected us in many ways still felt today. Higher taxes, intrusive military and intelligence agencies, and a host of other ills were imposed upon human populations in the name of protecting against the enemy. We have been affected in other ways, which are less well known, but equally significant. And man, oh man, this chapter just goes on and on and on. There's still, 4 or 5 bunch of pages left. But that's all I got tonight. We're going to leave it right there. We'll pick back up with this chapter for you on the show tomorrow. Boy, good stuff tonight. Good information. Definitely spread this show around to your friends and family and let people know about this broadcast tonight. There was some important info in here tonight that people need to hear, and I'm glad you guys were all here with me to hear it tonight. I love you guys so much, and just appreciate you guys continuing to be here and listen to the show and hang with me through all the bumps and everything else that goes on in life. And looking forward to being back here with you tomorrow. I enjoyed the show tonight. I'm glad you guys were here with me. Again, my website is theglobalreality.com. It's www.theglobalreality.com. We got the Chivin banner. We got the donate button up there. But please support our work, folks. We need as much support as we can get right now, and we can't do it without you. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you. We'll see you next time for the broadcast. You guys have a great night. Take care.